1 in 6. 1 in 6 is the number of kittens that ages 0 to 3 months that are humanely euthanized in Chicago when they enter the shelter system. And this number is of course higher than we would like it to be, but it is a lot lower than the national average. Since Paws Chicago opened in 1997, they brought down the number of animals euthanized in Chicago by 70%. So this number is fairly low. But for example, in Los Angeles County, out of the 13,000 total animals that were euthanized in 2012, 6,000 of them were neonatal kittens. So those are kittens that are from 0 to 6 weeks old. And this is a problem not just in Chicago and in Los Angeles, it really is a problem nationwide. And the reason why so many of these kittens end up being humanely euthanized is because they require around-the-clock care, and many shelters just don't have the resources, the time, and the money to take care of them. And the easiest solution for them to fix this is with fosters, because they can get the kittens out of their physical space, but still keep tabs on them, and they can get into home environments and with people who have more time to take care of them. But in a survey of 600 shelters, 93% of them, so 558 shelters, said that they needed more help with fostering neonatal kittens. But who wouldn't want to foster this guy? So I'm Karen.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Celia. I'm Jessie.
And I'm Lauren.
And we're the team that's working with Paws Chicago in order to improve animal care. So Young will tell you a little bit more about what we've done this summer.
So during the summer, we worked with Paws Chicago, which is a no-kill animal shelter in downtown. And they are also working with CACC, which is Chicago Animal Care and Control, where they will bring in the animals to get them ready for adoption at the adoption center. And yeah, here's a diagram of the two centers that Paws have. So they would bring the animals from CACC to the Rescue and Recovery Center and then get them ready, prepared for the adoption process, and then they'll bring the animals over to the adoption center where people will go visit and see if they can find an animal of their fit. And so we decided to work, as we were working with Paws Chicago, we also visited CACC and decided to actually foster the 3 kittens who are sleeping over there, Harriet, Fritz, and LeBron. And we decided to focus on the neonatal kitten care, which was the primary issue both CACC and Paws Chicago told us that they're going through. And the neonatal kitten care is really difficult because they have these issues of nursing the kittens, which means they have to be fed every 1 to 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours as they get older. And they need to be stimulated to go to the restroom, so a person has to be there to make them go to the bathroom every time after they eat. And the last one was socialization, which is taking care of the kids' interaction with other kittens and also with humans. And this also leads to the lack of human necessities, which is lack of sleep, which is obvious because a person has to wake up at night in order to feed the kittens. And there is the problem of work, which means they have to come back from work every time to actually take care of the kitten needs. And finally, they have the friends issues, which means while taking care of the kids, the fosters will have difficulty in their own socialization issues. So, so out of the 3 kitten necessities, we decided to focus on the nursing because we thought that this was the primary necessity that needed the most human attention, and that needed attention most frequently. And we decided to narrow down our how canis to how can we help orphan kittens nurse more independently from humans.
Alright, so to do that, we came up with a device that we're now calling the Nanny Cat. It is a part-time device, nursing machine that just helps you fosters take care of the cats a little more easily. And so this is just a cat prototype that we mocked up. It has, I don't know if you can see the nipples, 3 on each little cove. There are 3 coves. We tried to use a lot of the things we learned from having the kittens to inform our design. So, this would be covered with something fuzzy, so the kittens would like it. They really found they really like to burrow their heads into things, so we're kind of trying to put their heads into the cove, and then that's where they'll find the nipples. Another thing about this design is that there is the element of heating and cooling the milk, because the milk has to be refrigerated when it's not being used, and it has to be warm when the kittens want it. So there's that whole component, and that would go right now. This under part right here is where it would go, and then the heat from that would also heat the prototype, and we found that when the kittens were much littler, they were attracted to the heat, so we're just trying to use that. And so we have done some testing, just to proof of concept basically, to make sure the kittens can nurse on their own. So this is one of our prototypes. You can see the bottle is there at an angle, and we actually have gotten the kittens to find the bottle on their own after some shaky, exploring, and they are able to latch on and feed themselves from something like this.
So now that we've talked about the kitten needs, I'm going to go into how this would also appeal to the user. So the current solution requires a lot of human attention on the physical needs of the kittens, because they have to be there to nurse them, they have to be there to make them go to the bathroom, and most of the time, as me and Karen and our whole team has experienced, is spent satisfying the kittens' physical needs. And then you are left with just a little bit of time to socialize with them, which is really the funnest part. But since you're spending so much time on the physical needs, you don't really have as much time to socialize with them. So what our solution would do is we would be spending less time on the physical needs, because our device would be satisfying the need for them to be nursing. And we would be able to spend more time with the social needs, which is really the most enjoyable part of the process. So our device, in addition, would increase the flexibility, because instead of having to nurse your kittens every 2 or 3 hours, this could be replacing a feeding or 2, so you could be going maybe 6 or 8 hours without feeding them. And with that, that would also be increasing the people who are able to foster. So if we, our current solution, the current solution only allows people who are able to foster all the time to foster kittens, because they do need to be there every 2 hours to feed these kittens. And there's no way around that. And so what we're trying to do is open up this pool to people who maybe it's not as appealing to them to wake up every 2 hours, or they may have to run out of the house and run an errand. And by having something that can supplement a feeding or 2, people who are available most of the time would be able to foster. And then for future steps, we were hoping that people who are available some of the time, for example, someone who works from home but might have to leave and go to a meeting, or someone who has a child and has to take them somewhere, so has to be out of the house for a little while, but still wants to foster these kittens, would be able to with our device. So as I said before, this is now the current solution with human nursing. Next would be the first iteration of our solution, so part-time, and then later hopefully we could open it up even more.
And so really what we're doing by increasing flexibility is taking this 93% that we were talking about earlier and hopefully making it disappear. And so we hope that this has given you a little bit of an overview of how we see our device fitting into the current foster and animal shelter system. As far as our next steps go in this Q&A session, we would love to get feedback on a few things that we're thinking of doing as our next step. Okay. So, practice run. So a couple of our next steps. Right now we are trying to finalize how we will get the kittens to use this device. In the beginning, we were trying to attract them to the device by using different elements to mimic a mother cat. But we've also considered training them to use the device. We thought that since we trained them to bottle feed from being fed from the mother cat before we began to foster them, perhaps we could look into training them to feed on this device as well. But that's something that, one of our next steps is to finalize how we will actually get the kittens to the device. We also need to figure out all of the heating and cooling elements and all those electronic components. We are using an Arduino board, some Peltiers, and trying to use a heat sink to work all that, but we definitely need help with that. So anybody out there, opportunity for mentorship, help us with all this mechanical stuff. And then finally, we're also thinking about material selection. Obviously, we want some materials that are attractive to the kittens, but we also realize that it's very, very important that the device is sanitary, because these kittens are, because they're so young, their immune systems aren't fully developed, at a much higher risk of getting sick. And we also realize that the device needs to be kitten-proof, because these guys are really playful, enjoy climbing and chewing on most anything, and so we need to make sure that that cannot include any of our electronic components. And so, thank you so much for listening, and we would now like to open the Q&A session. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
You can have a minute or two to write on the left, and then we'll start open discussion.